Hi, what am I doing this morning? I'm making up boxes. Boxes for chocolates. Something a bit different. And why not? Variety is the spice of life, we're told. I had thought that I could spend some time this morning. It's a wonderful morning. It's chilly out there, but the sun's out. And it'd be nice to be out there rather than doing this, but I enjoy this. I've just started and I've lost myself already. That's not very impressive, is it? I had thought that it's a long time since I said anything about my early life, which is what this was intended to be originally. And I started and got to secondary school, just secondary school I think. And then I recorded another video where I said, oh, I must do this more, must catch up, bring myself up to date. And then I thought, I'll have to go back and listen to it all again and work out where I'd got to. Well, listener, I haven't done that. I haven't been back and listened to find out what I have and haven't said. So I guess I would just, maybe, if I can walk and talk at the same time, just do a little bit of an update. Now, update really just a bit more. I think I'd got as far as, yes, I got as far as secondary school. But maybe just a bit of a recap. There's a dog outside who wants to come in. He's looking very soulful, but he can't come in. This is a working food kitchen. So he lies down in front of the door to stop anyone else coming in, which is great. +11 exam. Secondary school. Only child from primary school going to secondary school. I don't know how many of us took the 11+. I don't think it was many. But I was the only one that went on to secondary school. To grammar school. Grammar school. You see, walking and talking, working and talking at the same time. Bit of a struggle for me. That's not very good, is it? Cheap Chinese boxes. That's a rough one, isn't it? Good job that's the back. Secondary school. Didn't know anyone there. Although not strictly true. In an attempt to ease my passage through life and probably keep me connected with the right sort of boy, my mother tried to put me in touch with the son of a friend of hers, a Catholic friend, good Catholic boy, which I would have resisted and resented for a start. I wouldn't have really been looking for friendships with anyone, to be honest. Certainly not one dictated by someone else. And it didn't go well. We didn't become friends, and I'd almost go so far as to say that we were enemies at school. That was the only person I knew, and I really didn't have any social, friendly contact with him after going to school, having met him. Being forced to meet him a couple of times during the long summer holiday prior to going to school, grammar school. So the upshot was I went there knowing nobody. It was, as I say, a selective school. Back in those days we used to have 11 plus and selective grammar schools. Still do now, don't we? I don't know. I'm not going to talk about that because I know bugger all about it anyway. But it was a boys only school, which probably hasn't stood me in good stead for the rest of my life, leaving me completely unfamiliar with female company up until adulthood, probably still now. So it's very traditional school with emphasis on discipline, proper subjects, academic success, and I would say by the time I left, when I came to leave, most of the people I knew went on to Oxford or Cambridge. Actually Oxford, I think. I only knew one person who went to Cambridge. But from day one, I didn't fit in. I don't think I would have fitted in anywhere at any school. And would things have been worse had I gone to a comprehensive, as they used to be called, secondary modern? Don't know. I don't think I would have found it any easier. And a mixed school? I said earlier it might have helped me in relationships with women later, but I think it would have made it more difficult at the school, to be honest. I didn't want to be with anyone of either gender. So rigid uniform. Before going, we were sent through the post, a postcard with our name, our form details on, and do you know, I carried that with me for years, just in case I forgot. In case I forgot my house and my name, believe it or not. What was that all about? But no, I remember it was like a security blanket in my inside jacket pocket. A postcard with my identity on it. I laugh at it now. But it was important. I don't know whether these are the bottoms or the tops of boxes. I think it's the bottoms. It'll become apparent when I move on to the next items. Fairly early on, well, going there, didn't know anyone. It was a small school, only 600 boys over the 7 years. Four boarding houses, small boarding houses. The bulk of the students were day boys like myself. Very impressive buildings of which I have fond memories. It was a Victorian, red brick Victorian school. Victorian Gothic, you would say. Very attractive buildings. But I felt completely lost. And I didn't know what I was doing. Now this has cropped up in dreams repeatedly in later years. The having to keep to a timetable, the details of which were posted on the notice board, and not understanding the timetable or which bits were relevant to me, missing lessons, being late. Constant stress around that has cropped up in dreams, in school context and probably other ones as well. And that was a big thing at the time. I suppose because I didn't really have that many close friends I would talk about, with whom I talk about things like timetables, and certainly not people I would ask questions, because asking questions has always been difficult. Showing I don't know, attracting attention. Blah blah blah, this is not going the way I was hoping. Fairly early on in school, I made acquaintance of a couple of boys, and as somebody once said, you make friends in the first term and then spend the rest of your school life trying to avoid them. Well, he was talking about university. But it was very much the case for me that I met these people. I don't know how. I'm doing that stammering thing again. I don't know how I met them, how I formed some sort of connection with them, whether it came from them or me. I can't imagine I would have gone out of my way to make contact with them. But they were really not my sort of person. What was my sort of person? I don't know even now. But briefly friendly with these people, and then get away as far as possible and have as little to do with them for the rest of the time there. It's very traditional subjects: English language, English literature, maths, physics, chemistry, French, Latin, biology, geography. Usual things. Get some scissors. Now, I was by this time wearing glasses, so I could actually see the blackboards, and a lot of use was made of blackboards. And Latin, even traditional rote learning. And to this day I can still remember, I don't know what they were, parts of speech, pronouns, I don't know. These lists of things in Latin. So I learnt them. And cut the sellotape, I just tear the bag in the end. Having learnt them, I still remember them, but I don't know what they mean. And again, that's my life, isn't it? I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. We were set into house groups. Yeah, that's the lid. There you go. Yeah. A bit tacky, and the white gets very dirty. So I stored them like that. Half as many stacks. I'll do it. I'll do that. Bit of concentration there. Traditional subjects made into a form, a house, and then a form group with 24 day boys and 2 or 3 boarders. And we stayed in that basic group for the next 5 years. We were taught in that group, although moving around from classroom to classroom, until such time as we started dropping subjects or were split into groups for O-levels. So that would be according to ability, I guess. And you would think I would get to know these people, because I was close with them to them for 5 years. Some for longer, some for 7. But, some of them I didn't know their Christian names. It's a funny thing. At school, one only ever knows the surnames of one's cohort. Later on, one goes out in the real world and gets a job, and one only ever knows the Christian names of one's cohort. It's funny, isn't it? So I can remember the order the class, because we sat in order from front left, in rows going back from the desk. It was Albury, Atkins, Beck, Bennett, Busby, Cross, East, Harris, Hayward, Holmes, and so on. And I can remember all of them. I'm not going to. But Christian names, I knew some of the Christian names. It was difficult to avoid picking up some. But the pupils were then, and always will be to me, Albury, Atkins, Beck, Stafford, Stewart, Hayward, Holmes. Funny, isn't it? Another oddity, which was it an oddity? I don't know. It's the only school of which I have experience. Was that every year the school published a little book with a card cover stapled, and it had a list of every pupil. It started off with the school prayer, those little Latin. Oh gosh, I can't remember these things. The crest, coat of arms, it's crest of the school, and then a list of the academic staff, the admin staff, principal ones. I don't think we had cleaners and things like cleaners, but the office staff, and then by house and by year, all the pupils were given, all their surname by form group. So year one, first, don't say year one, in the first year, you'd have, what were the houses? East, west, actually it was three houses, east, west, county. West wing, south house. I suppose it was three houses, east, west and county. So each year in the book was divided into, were listed in terms of house, boarding house. Each pupil given their surname and followed by their initials, I seem to remember. And there were even the odd major and minor for brothers. Although my brother joined me, and I don't remember him being minor. But then I don't remember this book in later years. Perhaps I'd given up by then. I could probably find out, but I don't care. I'm not that interested. The work was mostly fairly easy. I found I didn't have to work over hard. Although anything that involves a personal input, saying something about myself, I didn't do. Which is something that has plagued me all my life. And I don't know what the solution to that is. This sun out there is lovely. I should be out lying naked in the field. But I've said I'll do some work, and I'm happy to do it. So even though the boxes are crappy, that's hesitation and repeating myself again. Even though the boxes are crappy, it's quite a satisfying operation. Do the base. Fold the top. Fit the two together. most of the work wasn't too difficult up to O level. I've often felt this. What you do up to O level is basically common sense, and arrogant to say. To not do well with it, you have to be trying a bit. I didn't actually enjoy the study, the acquisition of knowledge, but it wasn't a hardship. It was years later, when I went to college, that I ultimately found joy in just acquisition of knowledge. But that was many years later. 7, 8 years later. 9 years later by the time I found the right place. What we were doing was easy. Some subjects interested me. I enjoyed geography, I enjoyed biology. Aspects of English I enjoyed. Latin I felt I wanted to enjoy, having a fascination with words. But I didn't really engage with it. And, reader, listener, I had the advantage of a sister, older sister, who, as you know, I've got in touch with relatively recently, an older sister who had a natural gift, a flair for languages, and who was happy, it seemed, to help me with, or actually complete, my Latin homework and my French homework. So I took advantage of that. And although, yes, I enjoyed, Latin was fascinating, but I didn't get on with it. French, I liked, but again, I didn't really engage with it. Maths was just maths, physics, chemistry. I didn't set out to do much work. Homework was usually completed at the last minute. I had an arrangement with 2 friends about sharing responsibility for homework. So a very good friend who went on to bad things, with whom I'd take it in turns to do biology homework. So one would do it, the other one would copy, and then next week, the other way around. And another friend who ended up in a parallel geography group. So sometimes he would be ahead in curriculum, other times I would. And whoever was behind in the curriculum would copy the homework of the other one. Just making life easy. Again, digressing. I did get away from the people with whom I became friendly at the start of the school. Brief period when I was adopted by the son of the chaplain, because we had a proper chapel with a full-time chaplain. And somehow I became friendly with him. I can only imagine that came from him. But we spent time with model railways and going to work a couple of times in holidays on a narrow gauge railway in Wales. I don't know why he hooked up with me. We had really nothing in common, although I suppose I had some interest in mechanical engineering things. "25 large boxes. Off you go." I had some interest in, don't think I'm lying. I I had some interest in mechanical engineering things, as he did, but I don't know why I ended up friendly with him. And I would say again, it must have come from him, it wasn't from me. And I've always wondered since whether it was his father put him up to this, because we didn't have anything in common. And after a year or so, we drifted apart, and I got into bad company. And he went on to great things. Well, I say great. He actually achieved things with his life, unlike myself, who is an inveterate, compulsive, lifelong drifter, taking the path of least resistance and drifting from one poorly paid crap job to another. But hey, we do these things, don't we? But after 3 years there, I did pick up with some people. I hesitate to call them friends, they were more colleagues. Or partners in crime, even. We even had a little subset who called ourselves the ex-school anarchy society. In every room, corridor in the school were notice boards, and on every notice board was a printed headed sheet of the school rules, and we felt it was our obligation, our duty, to break all these rules. It wasn't easy, it wasn't difficult, to be honest. Why did I get in with these people? A natural and mostly repressed need to rebel throughout my life, because obviously rebelling isn't compatible with being invisible, which is my overriding life aim. Maybe that was the attraction to them. The other groups, they would have been the arty people, the intellectuals, the sporty people. That was the big group, and that was the one that I probably loathed the most. It would have been nice to feel I could be in the art or literature groups, the academic groups, but never the sports one. But these misfits, most of them, what attracted me to them? Was it the other way around? I wouldn't have gone out of my way to contact them and be friendly with them. So I don't know how it happened, but I would say that they were utterly accepting. There was no worry about having to have the right clothes or the right behaviour, or even really of making a huge contribution, or vocal contribution. More of an ideas man myself. It's just they accepted who I was, and I was allowed to join. And that did make school bearable. So the first 3 years were, well, it's all shit, but the first 3 years were awful. And then I found this group and it became all right. I was no longer completely alone. Most of the group were people who, as I say, just accepted me, didn't ask anything of me. But one or two of them who became, it might have been classed as my friends, were somewhat abusive and people I didn't really like much. Maybe more on that another time. And then there were a couple of people within the group with whom I got relatively close. But I would say that then as now, up until very recently, closeness with acquaintance has always been one way, in that I was there just to provide an ear to listen, or to be useful in some way. And that felt the case with the people within this group with whom I became closest. No real enduring friendships. There was the one man who was possibly, he was one who didn't ever ask anything of me. He was the biology cheat mate, and we shared an interest in music. And yes, he was unusual in that he didn't actually ask anything of me. I wasn't needed to approve, to massage his ego or anything. We just were, I suppose, friends. Yeah. He was likewise an outsider, but he was more a vocal outsider with strong political views, for which I commend him, because they were views that were wholly incompatible with the bulk of the school. And he used to get beaten up for his views, which he still held. So for that I commend him. But what happened? Rustling bit. He was one of the group who left after doing O-levels and went on to another school. Most emphatically, not being one to keep in touch, I would bump into him occasionally socially. And he dropped out of school, went to technical college, did some sort of apprenticeship or something, dropped out of that, and just gradually drifted down and down the social scale, if you like. And I think he got into drugs and he just looked more and more seedy, and then I just stopped seeing him. Could I find out where he is now? If he is, I do remember his full name, unlike many people there. A quick internet search hasn't found him, but he would be traceable. I've always told myself he got into drugs and died, to be honest. I don't know, and I probably never will know. The other person who became close to a friend was more demanding in that I always felt that closeness was one-sided and I had to be of value, use to him. But I did carry on seeing him, bumping into him occasionally and spending a lot of time drinking to the point of incapacity with him in later years. But eventually I forced a break between us and, yes, pointedly excluded him from my life, but that is many years later. Within this group, there was certainly one person who would have counted himself as my friend, and that was abusive. He was a nasty man. I accepted him as a friend then, but it wasn't long before I really got to dislike him. Very nasty, abusive, manipulative man. Again, I could probably trace him if I needed to. Gosh, I could have done the internet now, I've never done that. But he went on to Oxford. Crappy office work. Nasty man. Nasty, snide and sly. Spanish it was. This hasn't really followed any particular direction, has it? It's just rambling. I got in with this group and we just behaved antisocially. Vandalism, breaking rules, truancy, drinking, smoking. General bad behaviour. In fact, through the behaviour of this group, I survived near expulsion, getting away with just a caning, and the then headmaster did say that he wanted to get rid of the bad elements in the group and he would have used this episode to get rid of them, but he would have had to get rid of me as well, and he felt I had more potential, and so they were given a stay of execution but not allowed to remain beyond the 5th year, even if they wanted to. I stayed on. I've often wondered, an imponderable, I'll never know the answer, would I have been more happy leaving school after O-levels and serving an apprenticeship? Because a theme throughout my life is that I've never learned to do anything properly. So I've never got good at anything. I've never had any knowledge of any job I've done. It's just been picked up as I went along. There weren't many things that appealed to me. We had careers evenings. And nothing, absolutely nothing was there that I wanted to do. But I have thought, over the years, would I have been happier had I left school at 16 and got an apprenticeship with, say, the Forestry Commission or something like that. Actually learned how to do something, maybe found something I enjoyed, maybe made some progression. But I didn't. It never happened. It was just drifting, even then. But I've been happy. What happened instead? I took O-levels. I did rather well because I think, as I've said, it's just common sense. Little to learn. But not having any particular aim in mind, nothing I wanted to do, partly fear of having to go out and do something, and it was actually easier to stay in this environment which I really didn't like, studying subjects that didn't resonate with me at all. That was easier than going out in the real world and getting a job, so I did it. And I spent the next 2 years, the last 2 years at school, studying A-levels, doing no work at all. Going out several nights a week, maybe 5 nights a week getting drunk, doing no work at school. Because I didn't know why I was there. I took sciences for A-level, not because I had any flair for, interest in, gift. There's the next one. Not because it resonated with me, or I engaged with it at all. Not because it was easy, but because the alternative, arts, which might have appealed to me, furrowed brow, appealed to me rather more, involved putting something of myself into it, which is what I was avoiding doing all the time. So I made this huge mistake. And I can view it as a mistake of preparing myself for a career in the sciences, for which I have no sympathy or ability at all. We do funny things, don't we? Well, that's a very brief, incomplete run through grammar school. I haven't given details, there's a lot more. There was a certain amount of bullying, not bad, but enough. I was somebody who attracts these things. And was there abuse? Now this is a grey area. There are things around school which have some sort of associations, things I don't know, I don't understand. And blanks in my memory around certain things, certain aspects of school, even now fill me with terror, memories of them. But I don't know. Physical bullying, no, that was really primary school. I think the damage had been done by the time I got to secondary. But this is another subject. This has gone on for, getting on for 3/4 of an hour, which is far too long. And I suspect my voice is too low for it to be audible. So I'll stop this one and think about the next stage. So now I have these 50 neat little boxes which need to be labelled. And this is the slightly tense bit because the labels need to be square and central, and there are 3 different types, and I need to do certain numbers of each one. And having chosen the right label, each box then has to have 2 further labels on them, of which there are 5 different types. I don't want to fuck it up. That's it, I might do another one later. And will I ever upload this? It's boring. It's boring, and because I'm doing something at the same time, it's almost impossible to follow a train of thought. People moving outside again. I'll listen back to a bit, see how it sounds, but I can't upload it now. But if it's alright, I can leave it uploading in the house and go do my shopping. We'll see.